Good morning and welcome to the Crafty Canary for your tip on Tuesday. Today we are continuing our series on refurbishing old elastic, and I have a pair of pajama pants that I really love these pajamas, but as you can see, the elastic has really gotten old, and you can kind of hear it crunch when you pull on it, and it is not helping to stay on my waist anymore at all. But this one is elastic with a drawstring attached. So it's a drawstring made out of the fabric, but it's attached to a piece of elastic that's through a waistband. So we want to replace that elastic so we can get some more wear out of these pajama pants. And of course, I could just throw these away and get me a new pair of pajamas. But again, I don't like to spend money. I really like this pair of pajamas. I think they're really cute. I love to read, and they've got books all over them. And you know, right now we need to save some money. So both the economy and our own personal budget, it's better to not be wasteful and to save money and not have to spend money on things you don't need. So we're gonna do this today. I'm gonna show you how you can do it if you have a pair of pajama pants or workout pants that are similar to this with the elastic in the waistband attached to a fabric drawstring. Now, the first thing we have to do is get the old stuff out. And this one's not too hard because it actually does have a casing and it's not sewn onto the elastic except in the back. So that what they've done is they've sewn the tag and they've sewn it through the elastic. And they might have also sewn through this middle seam, but I don't think so. We'll see after we get the waistband off. So we have to take our handy dandy seam ripper and get that out. I'm gonna put my glasses on because I have trouble seeing close up when I don't. So we're going to take out that tag. So here we go. It shouldn't be too hard, but we want to get that out so that it is not going through the elastic and making it difficult for us to get it out, and then to get another piece threaded back in through that casing. All right, I'll get this out and I'll be right back. Okay, I have the tag off. Now, if I were doing this for a customer, I probably would keep the tag and sew it back on once I got the elastic through. But since this is for my own sake, all the washing instructions on the second white tag have faded, so it's not really going to do me any good. So I'm just going to throw it away. So I still don't think they've sewn through that middle seam, but we'll have to see just by pulling. So now I'm gently going to try to get this out of the casing. And if it sticks there in the middle, we know that it's sewn. It's not, so we can keep pulling. If it was sewn through that seam at the back of the waistband, then I would have had to use my seam ripper again and take that out carefully. But it's not, so I'm just going to keep pulling. This may rip on me. This elastic is so old and dilapidated. It might even be easier if I'm going to go to the end where my tie is, and I'm going to cut the old elastic so that it's easier to pull it through and I don't have to worry about pulling that through. And again, I want to make sure I save these because I'm going to sew those back on to my new elastic. So keep pulling. All right, so let's get this one off now. I'm just going to cut it really close. If I were doing this for a customer, I'd probably get my seam ripper again and take that completely off. But since it's for me, I will just cut it off and have a little bit of that old elastic still there, but I'm cutting really close so that there's not much. And now we get to throw the old stuff away. It's so fun when we get to throw old things away, isn't it? All right, so this probably would be nice if I had my ironing board set up, which I didn't before I started this video, so I won't do it. But if I had it set up, I would iron that because the fabric that these pajamas are made out of is really wrinkly. So I'd probably iron that just to make it look a little bit nicer, but I'm not going to do that right now so that we don't have to take the time to do it. But if I were you, I would do that. All right, now I'm going to use 1-inch elastic, which is about what it was. And I have a giant roll because I make pen holder bookmarks that I use the elastic on to make. So I have these giant rolls because I use a lot of it. You probably don't. So you'll want to go to the store and just get you a smaller roll of elastic or a package of elastic. You don't need much for this because it's really going to go just pretty much not even completely all the way around your waist. I'll show you how we'll measure it. Now you could do this with your tape measure, by measuring what you want and then measuring that amount of elastic, or you can just take the elastic and see what you want. Now, we want to, I'm going to put the elastic in my chair, the roll. We want to go a little bit past our side seams. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go down because this waist on this dress is very high. So this is really my waist and where I wear my pajama pants. I'm going to go about right there. So I have enough room for that tie to come to the middle and tie together. I don't want to get it all the way here, or when I pull and stretch, I'm going to pull elastic out of those holes and end up having to tie my tie at the elastic, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go a little bit past the side seam, and I'm going to go around the back and do just about the same here and keep my fingers there. Now, this is where it's going to be when it is not stretched and not pulled to tie. So when I measure it, I want to make sure that I measure it without pulling. This is just, it's laying against my back normally, and I'm not pulling anything tight. It's just normal, no stretch. Okay, so that's where it was. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut it there and get off my roll of elastic here. And then I'm just going to take my ties and I'm going to trim a little bit more of this old elastic off, but basically just put it where it was. And they had it so that it was folded over so that the raw edge, well, they had it this way, so that the raw edge was covered. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm attaching it to the end of that tie, and I'm going to go ahead and pin that, because I'm not real good at keeping things steady under the machine. You may be, and so that would be fine for you. But I'm going to do a seam. I'm going to do one right on the edge of the tie, and then I'm going to come up a little bit so that it's really more on the edge of the elastic, which is on the back side. So I'm going to do 2 straight seams on there, and making sure to back stitch on both. Take my pin out so I don't run over it. There's one of the seams. I can cut the end of my thread when I get done. I'm going to straighten that out. Remember, I didn't iron it, and I would suggest that it would be a good idea to iron it so that you don't have to do that. Back stitch, go all the way to the end, and back stitch, and cut my thread ends. Now what I'm going to do is just do the exact same thing on the other end of this elastic so that I have an tie sticking off of both ends. So I'll do that and be right back. So I've got both ties sewn onto the ends of that elastic. So now I just have to insert this whole thing back into the casing of the waistband of my pajama pants. So I'm going to use this tool. I have a video where I demonstrate this tool. I'm not one who really likes gadgets. If there's something, that you can use at home to do it, to buy a gadget, it seems silly to me, but this gadget is the best in the world. So that's why I bought it and I use it, and I made the video about it. So you can use this type of thing that you can buy at the fabric store or online to insert it into the casing, or you can use a large safety pin that will help you do it too. That's the way I did it for years and years and years. It certainly works. It just takes a little bit longer. That's why I like this thing, because it is so quick. So my waistband, my casing, has 2 basically buttonholes here that the tie is going to go into. So I'm going to take my tool, or if I was using a safety pin, my safety pin, which was attached to the tie, and I'm going to insert it into that hole and get my tie and elastic all the way through. Now the thing about this tool is it is a little bulky at the end, and so inserting it into the buttonhole can sometimes be a little bit of a pain, which it's proving to be right now because that buttonhole's kind of small and I've got a lot trying to go into it with the end of the tool and the waistband. So just bear with me here for a few seconds as I get it through. It does take a bit. There we go. It went through. So now that takes a bit, but then this part does not. This part is the part that is so quick and easy. If I were using a safety pin, it would take me about 3 times as long, which is okay. I'm just sometimes impatient, so that's my problem. Sometimes going over the seams when you get to a seam can be a little difficult because you get caught in the seam allowance. So just kind of wriggle it, work your way through, and it'll come through, and then you come out the other end at the other buttonhole. And again, it might take me a bit to get all of the parts through, but that didn't take as long. So now I'm going to pull that through and make sure that the elastic went through here. Now where I attached the elastic onto the tie, it didn't go through very easily, which is a good thing, because when you're tying your pants, that means it won't come back through the other way very easily. So I have to kind of wriggle and work it in. So I'm making sure that I get that elastic seam into the buttonhole. Again, me and patience are not always the best of friends, but I can do it and I can be patient. Okay, so that side is through. So we're going to gently pull. And again, these pants are a little on the older side, so I don't want to do too much, you know, rough pulling, because then I might actually tear something I don't want to tear and then have to do another repair. So you have to be careful sometimes when you're working with older garments and the fabric, in, you know, just like the elastic got a little bit old, the fabric can get that way too. So I want to be careful to not rip any fabric. And it looks like my buttonhole may be a little bigger when I get done, but that's okay. Again, these are, you know, not the oldest, I mean, not the newest pants in the world. But we want to get it to where the elastic is all the way in. Come on, elastic, come through. It's the end of the tie is having trouble getting over one of the seams. So I'm having to kind of really adjust there. And then once I get to the other place where the elastic is sewn on, I might have to do some more wriggling to get that through the buttonhole. And I think even though it's, you know, awkward in a video when there's silence because someone's working, I think I will leave it, not do a fast forward, so that you can actually see that you do have to have a little bit of patience and take some time to get this through. So, okay, now it's almost there. Pull a little bit more and we'll get that place where the elastic is sewn onto the tie through my buttonhole. So let's kind of wriggle, 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 push. I also have a tool that I turn things with when I, you know, turn like a tie or something like that, a tube of some kind. I use that to turn it. So I can kind of use that to push it in. But again, I want to be gentle so I don't rip a hole or make that buttonhole that's coming out of too big, so that it won't come out when I'm actually using the pajama pants. Okay, so we're almost there. Just a little more pulling. One thing that you do need to be careful that I'm noticing is the elastic is wanting to twist. And that's pretty typical, even when you are doing a waistband yourself. When you're making a new pair of pajama pants or a new pair of shorts or something that has elastic, you have to be careful, because the elastic will tend to twist. And that's one reason why people will sew, and I will do this sometimes if I doesn't need to pull, if it's not a drawstring, you will sew through the side seams and the back seams so that that elastic will stay in place and won't twist. But again, since this one does need to move, we don't want to sew through it so that it doesn't. But just like they did with the tag, you can sew through the back, but be very careful that you have it even. So if you're going to sew through that back seam, make sure that you know that both of the places where your elastic starts and is attached to the tie are in the same place, so that it's even when you tie it. Okay, so there we have it. We have a nice stretchy elastic waistband now that is, you know, we'll see how long it lasts, but it'll give me at least, you know, a little bit more wear out of these great pajama pants, and they won't be sagging off of me now and will stay up, and I won't have to tie them so tight and be so miserable with them tied so tight. So I hope that that was helpful, and I hope you join me again next week for some more tips on refurbishing old elastic. So have a great week. Subscribe to my channel. Please share it with all your friends, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.